In the middle of a boycott over losing physical games, Sony emailed PlayStation users to basically remind them that their digital games are licensed. They aren't sold, they're licensed. You cannot script this. So, what's going on, everybody? It's Ed Saavedra. So, the PlayStation Blackout was supposed to be 1 week, August 23rd through the 30th. You log off PSN, you don't buy anything on the store, and you don't play online. You basically cancel your subscription if you want to go that far, and you send Sony a message. That was the plan, right? Now, the people behind it are saying that 1 week is the minimum here. So they're encouraging players to go on indefinitely until Sony changes course. And I don't think that that escalation happened on its own, right? I think that Sony walked straight into it because that email went out to people who were already furious. And it basically told them in writing the exact thing that they were protesting about, right? Your digital games are licensed to you. They're not sold to you. So let me get this straight, right? First, Sony announces that physical disc production for new PlayStation games is ending in January 2028. And then fans start saying no disc, no buy. Then a blackout gets organized. Then Sony finally talks to investors and says they are not seeing an impact. Their users get a legal reminder that, by the way, the digital games in your library are not really owned the way a disc on your shelf is owned. If you were trying to calm people down, that is not the way to do it, right? So when Sony announced they were killing this production, I said if publishers keep shoving this industry fully digital while ignoring the people actually buying the games, eventually you're gonna piss off the wrong crowd, right? Well, here we are. Now, to be clear, guys, the license language itself is not new. Digital games have worked like this for a long time. When you buy a digital game, you are basically just buying a license to access that software under the platform's own rules. But the timing here matters, right? So this timing was terrible. I mean, you have players already furious about the disc decision. Sony says that one is because consumer preferences are moving toward digital. And I mean, yes, so digital sales are huge, right? Nobody is pretending that discs are the majority anymore. But for a lot of gamers, discs were never just about the majority. They were about lending a game to a friend, selling it, buying it used, collecting, playing offline, and having something that does not disappear because a storefront, an account, a license, a server, or corporate policy changes later. So when Sony says, don't worry, new games will still be available at retail, just in digital formats, well, a lot of players hear that and it's just basically a box with a code, right? And that is not the same thing, right? This is not the same promise. This is not the same relationship between the player and the game. And now I know what some of you are going to say, right? That's never going to work. People are not going to unplug their PS5 forever. GTA 6 is coming. Wolverine is coming. Big games are on the way. I mean, yeah, that's true. And Sony knows that as well. That is part of the problem, right? Sony is betting that the release schedule is stronger than the backlash. They are betting that when the next huge trailer drops, when the next exclusive gets close, when GTA 6 is sitting there, a lot of people who are furious today will quietly plug the console back in tomorrow. And honestly, for some people, of course that will happen, right? But not everyone. I mean, because the comments that I have seen are not just people saying that they're mad this week alone, right? They're basically saying that the PS5 is their last PlayStation. They are saying that they're going to PC, they're going to Xbox, Nintendo, canceling PlayStation Plus, or they're only buying physical from now on until the end, right? That is a different kind of damage, right? A 1 week blackout might be easy for Sony to ignore, but a long-term trust problem is not. Now, real quick, guys, if you like these kind of videos, please hit subscribe and hit the like button. I would really appreciate that. Now, moving on with the video, right? Because there's a pattern behind Sony's response that I think matters more than the disc decision itself. This is the part that gets me the most, right? When the disc announcement happened, players wanted Sony to basically talk to them. Not with corporate language, not with a quiet investor answer or a product announcement. They wanted Sony to directly explain why removing discs is supposed to be good for the people buying the games. And so far, nobody has gotten that answer. That is why this is landing as a slap in the face to all gamers. It is not just one decision, right? It is the pattern here. It feels like Sony is saying, we know that you're mad, but the numbers still work for us. And maybe they do. Maybe Sony has looked at the math and decided that disc buyers are just not worth protecting long term. Maybe the manufacturing savings, retail changes, used game control, and digital store revenue are just too good from a business standpoint. But here's the thing, so the cheapest choice here for a company is not always the best choice for the customer. And customers are also allowed to respond here. And that's also why my eyes are now eyeing Xbox and Nintendo right now. Nintendo is still doing physical media their way. Xbox has been very careful with what it says publicly. And I think that Xbox is watching the Sony backlash very closely. Because let's be honest here, Xbox has also been moving toward digital on their own, right? They have digital consoles, they have Game Pass, they have cloud gaming. They have every reason to want that same kind of control that Sony's looking for. But if Sony steps on that landmine first, then Xbox gets to sit back and just learn from that, right? They get to see how angry people get. They get to see whether the blackout matters, whether subscriptions get canceled, and whether that no disc, no buy is just a comment section slogan or actually a buying choice. And Nintendo, well, Nintendo can just keep being Nintendo. If they keep offering physical games, they may look more consumer friendly by simply not following Sony's own path. That is the opening that Sony is creating for its competitors. So here's what I think. I don't know if the blackout itself will force Sony to actually reverse course here, right? A week of lower activity might not be enough for this, but even an indefinite process may start losing people once the big games actually start coming out. But I do think that Sony is underestimating the emotional side of this whole story, right? Because this isn't just about plastic discs. It is about whether players feel like they own anything anymore. About whether a $70 or $80 purchase feels permanent, or whether you can preserve games, resell them, lend them, collect them, or play them years later without actually asking a server for permission. And if Sony's answer is basically just trust us, digital is what most people want today, then Sony should not be shocked when the people who don't want that actually start walking away. So Sony needs to understand something. People can love PlayStation and still hate their choice. People can own a PS5 and still say no disc, no buy. And people can be excited for Wolverine and GTA 6 and still be angry that the future Sony is building gives them less control over the games that they pay for. And that is the part that Sony cannot invest or call its way out of, right? So now I want to know where you guys stand with this. Are you doing that 1 week, or are you actually going indefinitely? Are you canceling PS Plus? Or is PS5 just your last PlayStation full stop? Drop it in the comments, because I actually want to see the split with this one. I'm following this one until the end. And if you want more videos like this one, hit subscribe, guys. For more gaming industry news and breakdowns like this one, check out savage.com. I'm Ed Saavedra, and I will catch you all in the next one.